blocked your path all of a sudden.
I asked that very question at the forum at the senior citizen building, and they says, well, some of ours have GPS, most of them have trackers. I said, what good is a tracker? To get them to a location.
Yeah,
What about the nighttime location program with GPS?
yeah,
You know, that's, I mean, I ran a trucking company for years, ran GPS in my truck, and it's not like one of those things I'm gonna sit down.
It's already on the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it on the way.
That's what I suggested to the gentleman. I just started doing this. A great way to find out what goes on in the city is go to study sessions. Taylor has a really weird meeting schedule that nobody else follows. They'll have a regular meeting, but then they have a study session the day before, and that covers the 90% of what really goes on. So what you see on TV is a 10%. If you want the full 100, you got to go to study session.
Well, like the study session they wanted to go into about the playground, but.
Yeah, but they have them every week now, so you kind of got to go to catch up. That's just how we do it.
They have them the Monday before
Sure.
the meeting.
You talked about RIP team and different standards. How many firefighters do we have on duty a day?
we have between 5 and 6.
Can you explain to me what the standard of the 2 in, 2 out standard?
2 and 2 out is also something by the NFPA, and that basically says that for every 2 people that you have in working on a fire, you need to have at least 2 that are outside, and all their job is to go in and help those guys if they need help. Now that doesn't include the fireman that's on the pump, providing water to the scene. That doesn't include a firefighter that is maybe hooking up the water. It doesn't include the boss, which used to be a battalion chief, but now that would be a captain. And that person oversees the scene. When they get to the scene, they're going to do a 360 around the house. And they're going to take a look at where your fire is and possible exits and things like that. And you're going to have the guys that are ready to go. And unless you absolutely, positively have great information that there is a person inside of that house, you are not allowed to break that, because if you did and you were to get injured, then it would all fall on you.
I got one more
You
question.
being a firefighter, I'm sorry.
You mentioned earlier about the paramedic bonus. Who paid for your paramedic schooling in the first place?
We paid for our own.
And how long did it take you to go through medical school?
It was about 2 years, and that was after, actually, you know, there are levels. There's a basic EMT, and nowadays you're going to go for almost a year for that. And then back when I got mine, way back when, there was something in between called a specialist. And basically a specialist would drive the advanced life support rig, and they could do the IVs, but they couldn't touch the medications. That was for the paramedic. So I actually went and I got my EMT license. And then I went and I got my specialist license. I had that for a couple years, and then I got my paramedic license. And a paramedic takes approximately 2 years, and now the book is about that thing. And that is no joke.
Did the city pay for you for your time at the school or for your classes or anything like
Nope, that was all on our own.
And is that for all the current firefighters?
Yes, it actually was a requirement to get hired back when they eliminated the auxiliary program and we went to full-time. You were required to be a paramedic.
With four firefighters working, if you go to a house fire, there's somebody inside, do you have to wait for a different city to show up in order for you to go inside safely?
The only way is if we absolutely knew. I mean, sometimes you get, you know, somebody says, my baby's in there, but you got to kind of clarify, is your baby a child or is your baby your dog? You know,
Right.
and kind of maybe where is this person going to be? It's going to kind of depend on that. I can tell you this, there are regulations, but we're firefighters. We want to help you, and to be quite honest, if you say you have a child in that house, I don't care if it's just the 2 of us. I don't care if there's a guy on the pump and me. We're going to go in and get your child. That's why we took this job.
Talked a lot about regulations and federal standards or whatever. I want to know, like, who's absolutely accountable for all this when these standards and guidelines go out the window and everything is what it is? Who's holding back? Who's responsible? Whose face is...
Things to the NFPA.
What could our standards or even having these studies or having anything if there's no accountability or anybody really enforcing this? You know, I mean, it's great to talk about.
Right.
But
Well,
it
you
means
see,
nothing, really.
that's the problem. The NFPA is more of a operating guideline. And they say that if you're going to tell your residents that you are NFPA compliant, there are particular things that you have to do. Like Jesse was saying, if we were to get the grant and everybody were to come back, The goal of getting the grant is to tell the federal government we want to be NFPA 1710 approved. And these are all things that, if you want the numbers so that you can look it up online, we can provide that for you. And that says that your fire engines are going to have 4 people inside. 4 people. We've never had 4 people inside of our fire trucks. And right now, it's 2 people to go. But the problem is these are just, they're not laws. They can't be hammered for it. Now, is what can happen though is OSHA. OSHA regulates the state. And OSHA, if they were to find that you did not follow the NFPA guidelines and you're not following those recklessly has caused injury or death, then that's going to come down on you, Jesse.
Yeah, that should, the mayor should
You're
be
held accountable to
for that.
standards. The city as a whole is held accountable to standards. Every chief officer, whether they're the head of the DPW, they're responsible for their workers' safety, and there are standards, national standards that whether the city says, I agree with that or not, that's the standard they're going to be held to. And if something goes wrong, people will be held to those standards. The one that we're talking about, the 2 in and 2 out rule, that is a federal regulation, 29 CFR. It says 2 in, 2 out. And if a firefighter, an officer breaks that, and somebody dies, that officer can go to jail.
What happens
And, it has happened in the past because it is unfortunate. We get put in these positions where we have such little manpower on scene. We do things that if we stop to think about it, maybe we wouldn't do. But that's not why we got in this job. We got this job to help you. And we take those risks for you. That's our contract with you. Our moral contract with the citizens is to take those risks. Now, we'd like to believe that if something happens to us while we're doing that, that you guys would take care of our families. Sure. I just wanted to say, I'm a senior officer at the fire department in age, and I'm a shift commander. And what Jesse's saying is exactly what happens. When I come to your house and there's a fire, as I'm driving there, I'm going to make a decision whether these guys go in or not. And their life is in my hands. Now, there's a federal law that says, unless we have 5 people, 2 dedicated to rescue them, I can't send them in. Now, if you say to me when I come up, and I'm doing that 360 walk around your house, if you say to me my wife's in there, my child's in there, I can break the law. I can say, okay guys, because we risk a little to save a little, we risk a lot to save a lot. And that's kind of how the law works. So I can order these guys to go in the fire. But and I can even order them to go in the fire when there's not proof of people being in there. But I can tell you this, if nothing happens, great. If one of these guys gets hurt or killed, I will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So I can't do that. So that's kind of how that works.
Couldn't a wrongful death suit be brought against the person responsible for not maintaining these guidelines if something like that were to happen?
No, because it's a law to protect firefighters and the citizens.
Right, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
but
If
if
a
it's-
firefighter was
let's say
killed
something
in a
does happen.
situation like that, wouldn't the family be able to bring a wrongful death suit against the person responsible for getting these guidelines not being met? You guys are putting your life in danger for us, and that's not fair.
Well, if the guidelines aren't being met, it's because I didn't meet them. In other words, the guideline says if there's 5 people there, and in other words, somebody asked a question earlier, do we wait for a bordering city to come in? And the answer to that is yes. If we go there with 4 people, and you don't tell me there's somebody trapped in the house, we're going to wait until a bordering city comes in. And that's another delay. And to answer the question that the other young lady said, I still stay in dispatch. I don't have to, but I do. Because there's calls that come in that are not through the 911 system. They come in on the 287-6611 number still. Private ambulance companies call that number. Well, I got a call in the middle of the night, shortly after we switched over, and it was a lady on the phone that said, hey, I need the number of the police department. I'm trying to get a hold of them and I can't do it. And I said, well, is this a 911 emergency? I was going to tell her to dial 911. She kind of hem-hawed a little bit, and finally she said to me, this is so-and-so from HealthLink. We can't find Miller Street on our map. And so what I said to her, I said, okay, I told her where it was. It's on Eureka, right, just east of Beach Daily, and that's where they went. So, does it happen as far as the city? Yes.
But if these guidelines are federal, couldn't the administration be held accountable in some way for not having enough firefighters, really? I mean,
To help
come
you
on, something
keep
has to
your
be able to
safety
be done.
Especially with OSHA standards.
Does anybody call OSHA in advance to be like proactive, since you guys know you're not meeting any of the federal guidelines? Not that you're at fault or anything, you know, I'm not
It's not your
trying to
guys' fault.
insinuate anything like that, but knowing the standards aren't being followed, does anybody try to
Well-
be proactive and maybe pressure the mayor or the administration?
We do have a safety committee, which, I'm part of the safety committee. Captain Reynolds is running our safety committee right now. And, actually, we have passed on, you know, everything's gotta follow the chain of command, you know, it goes to our chief, and beyond that, it's gonna go to the city. And we have actually submitted numerous complaints about safety. We've had complaints about the way that the dispatch system is working. There are delays in calls, and there are delays that happen. There are issues every day. So when that stuff happens, we start on our part and we send a letter as the safety committee that says, listen, this is going on. That is, I mean, in the safety committee, we do all of it. I mean, hey, the brakes are bad in this truck, they need to be changed, or, you know, the exhaust system's not working in the station. And that used to be the things that we dealt with. But now, man, we got so much more. Sir, you've been waiting for a few minutes.
My question is, okay, you go down to the minimum amount of people, like, let's say you send 2 people to a fire, right? You go by your guidelines, right? Somebody's inside, you can't go in, right? That's what I'm understanding. I'm just saying legally. I mean, I'm not saying morally.
Legally.
Okay, I'm just saying legally. At what point in time does that now become a lawsuit because of failure to,
Rescue.
To be honest with you, I don't know at what point. I can just hope that.
But my thing is this. I appreciate that you would go then, but you play with 2 people, you go in and something happens, you're on the hook. Well, who's on the hook if you follow the rule? The city of Taylor, or is it somebody else? Because somebody's to blame.
Yeah, to be honest with you, with the legal part, I know that I would hate to ever get sued for anything. I mean, and we stand the risk of lawsuits. I mean, you know, with transport, we stand
Well, what
the
I'm saying
risk,
is,
so.
like I say, basically bottom line is you're saying that 2 people, you can't go into somebody's trap. Let's say you go ahead and somebody burns up, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm saying maybe you should have showed up enough people to do the job, right?
Right.
So I go see Jeffrey Piker. Who gets sued in that process? The city of Taylor?
That's
who you should.
Yeah, but if they don't have enough people to send, then it can't be
Yeah,
their fault.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think that,
Well, I mean, why would the city of Taylor put themselves in this way?
Because we're idiots.
I can't.
You bring up a good point, because the way it's gonna be run, is that's it, that's all we got
You
to
got 4
respond.
guys for the whole city.
Now, say we got a car accident over here on 7.